of the world, now I'm living. And the good just gets better, keeps on giving. Not even close to the end, it's just beginning. Life is getting lighter while the days are getting brighter, yeah.
Hey there, thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Ann Perry, and today we're going to be discussing 3 ways that numerology can help you to crush your biggest fears. We all have them, right? Everybody's got fears. But just understanding just a little bit about your numerology chart, very simple steps, will help you to squash those fears in their tracks. So let's just take a look at how that works. Okay, first of all, we want to look at the definition of fear as defined by the Cambridge English Dictionary. So this dictionary says, fear is an unpleasant emotion or thought that you have when you're frightened or worried or by something dangerous, painful, or bad that is happening or might happen. Okay, so fear is something that we all experience. Fear is also a choice. I have to remind myself of that every time I get on my horse. So I'm facing fears for a ride coming up this weekend. I'm thinking, okay, I can choose to be anxious or I can choose to be okay with it. So it really is that simple. We have the choice whether we choose fear or not. But sometimes it just creeps in on us. So you know what? Numerology has all kinds of really great ways to explain what our talents are, what our gifts are, and it gives us all kinds of insight that help us to be more comfortable with who we are and where we're going and what the future has in store for us. So learning which cycles are affecting you right now is huge, really, really huge. Before I knew anything about numerology, I went through a really dark time. I've talked about this through some of my videos before, but I went through a really dark phase and it was difficult. It was really hard. I called it my dark place. I've never been there before and I don't ever plan on going there again. Thank God I've never been there since. But the fact is, had I understood a little bit more about my numerology chart, I could have looked at my chart to say, yeah, okay, so I'm in a crap hole right now, okay? I'm in a bit of a difficult spot right now, but it's only for about 9 months, right? So had I known that, I would have been able to go from my life sucks to my life sucks just for now, okay? Had I understood that this was a cycle that I was going through, I would have embraced it more easily. I could have relaxed into it. I could have understood that, you know what, it's okay. This is just a dark period of time for just a little while, okay? So your numerology chart, when I do readings for people, I take a look at that, and I might be inclined to say, hey, you know what? You're in a bit of a rough period right now. You remember back then when it started? Yeah. Okay, so remember back in 1985 when you went through something similar? Yeah. Well, guess what? This is the same kind of timeline that you're in again. And remember how you got through it in 1989? Yeah. Okay, so that's what we're looking at here. So in a numerology chart, we can take a look at the cycles and the trends and the epicycles, the personal years. We can take a look at all of that and help you to see how long you might be feeling like this and the best ways to help you get through it. So the personal years are the first thing I would be looking at. If somebody's feeling really, really stuck, someone's feeling like they're afraid that they can't get anything done, that maybe their career is done, maybe their relationship is over and they're really fearful about that, understanding that possibly they're in a personal year of 4, and the 4 has a tendency to cause you to focus on things that are not so productive, right? We tend to come from a half empty cup when we're in a personal year of 4. We tend to focus on all the awful things that are happening and influencing us, where we need to really get focused on the good stuff and keep building from that. So the personal years can tell us an awful lot as to what you're feeling. Okay, so if you happen to be, for example, in a personal year of 4, you can expect that during that personal year, you might be feeling a little bit stuck. When you come into a personal year of 5, that's going to be a year of unexpected events. So learning that it's better just to be resilient, to just be a little bit more flexible, maybe a little bit more adaptable while you're going through a personal year of 5 is really going to help you to go through that and feel a little bit more confident going through that, maybe not quite so fearful of what's coming up. Life path periods. So we all have 3 life path periods, okay, in our charts that we take a look at. So the first period relates to you as a child and as a young adult. So most people feel pretty stuck during that time. That's kind of why we're all rebellious teenagers, right? Because we're in that first life path period. So when we come into the second life path period, that's our middle years, our middle age years. So that's when we're developing families and relationships and jobs and whatnot. We're starting to build a bit of a foundation for ourselves. And then after that, we go into our third period, life path period, which relates to integrating all of what we've just learned in the first two periods. So people who are coming into their final stage, I being one of them, just because of the age that I'm at, 21, okay, maybe not. But coming into the third period, I'm in a 6 life path period, which says I need to be of service to other people, right? So I could fight it because it's a huge responsibility on my shoulders to make sure that you guys are entertained, that you guys are educated. My YouTube channel is babysat and taken care of, and you know, also my Facebook groups and all that stuff that I'm developing. So I know that going in, that I'm going to feel this huge sense of responsibility. I tend not to get too overwhelmed by it because I've accepted it, because that is what my life path period is. When you know the periods that you're in, you're better able to accept them. When you know what they have in store for you, you can roll along with them much more easily instead of just going in with no roadmap. Your numerology chart is your roadmap, right? This is your compass. This is what tells you what's coming up. This is what tells you what you'll expect to feel. And I don't know about you, but when I have a bit of a roadmap, a GPS, if you will, I feel a lot more confident that I'm going to get to where it is I want to go, rather than aimlessly driving to someplace I have no idea where I'm going. So the numerology chart provides a really good tool in that respect. We also look at the pinnacles. So we all have 4 pinnacles as well. So the first one, again, is all about childhood, building a foundation for ourselves, kind of getting set up. Again, we feel quite restricted during that time. It's not just our parents saying we can't go out at night. It's really, it really does make you feel that way. The second and third pinnacles, they're each 9 years each. Okay, so the second one, of course, would be an integrative time. And the third one causes you to put to use what you've learned in the first period and the second period. And of course, the fourth period is your final one. The fourth pinnacle is your final one. So that helps you to sort of reflect and make any alterations or changes to your behavior, maybe release, forgive, forget, move on, you know, all that sort of thing. So it's kind of setting you up for your final stage in life. So again, if you understand the cycles that you're in, it's a heck of a lot easier to go through them. They're not quite so surprising. They're not quite so confusing. You know, if you are not, for example, if you're in a year of 2, personal year of 2, and you're finding yourself very, very emotional, guess what? That's all what 2s are about, right? It's all about being sensitive and emotional and learning the lessons about being a really good partner and collaborative efforts and companionship and all that stuff that goes into it. But if you're having some issues with your relationship at that time, you might be fearful that the relationship's in trouble or that it's going to end or whatever. But if you're in a 2 personal year, you're supposed to be focusing on the relationship, and that's okay. And guess what? If you know that, then you can focus on that for the year that you're in it, because the following year is going to be a much lighter energy. So getting in touch with the cycles that are affecting you is really, really important. Clearly understanding your life path number. This is a big one, guys. What are your sub-lessons? You hear me talking about this all the time. I've actually got a course on Udemy called Uncover Your Life Purpose with Numerology, if you want to check it out. Because what we do in that course is we talk about the sub-lessons relating to your specific life path number. So it's not enough for you just to say, I'm a life path number 8. I'm a life path number 7, right? What kind of life path number are you? You hear me droning on this all the time, but it's like I have to drive this point home. If we know what lessons we're meant to learn, we can overcome them. We can embrace them. We can say, okay, that's showing itself again. What am I going to do about that, right? So we have to ask ourselves, how are these lessons showing up in our lives? You know, what is it that's asking us to learn? So, you know, in my particular case, my life path number is a 16-7. I know that I have a karmic debt for which I'm paying back dearly for in this lifetime. I get that. I know that. I also know that my sub-lessons are related to the 1 and the 6, and the big lesson is the 7. So the 7 is all about learning how to trust. The 1 is about learning how to be independent rather than codependent, learning how to stand up for myself, embracing my creative potential. The 6 is related to balance. And I struggle with that. I struggle with balance because I'm a workaholic, right? I love to do what I do, right? I do. I adore doing what I do. But I find it difficult to take time off, to just relax, to take on some time for me. So establishing balance in my life. The 6 is about responsibility. How much of this stuff going around me is really my responsibility? When I have a friend or a family member who's kind of crashing and burning or whatever, I have a tendency to take that on as my responsibility to fix. And when I feel out of control or I feel overwhelmed because I don't feel that I can help them, it's scary for me. It's a fear that shows up for me that I'm not able to help. It's something that I learned as a child when I was in a situation with my mom who wasn't mentally well for a while. I was kind of put in a position where I felt that I had to take care of her and had to be the one that would fix her and to be responsible for her. You know the patterns. Likely a lot of you have been there. So it causes me to feel a little bit fearful. But understanding that that's one of my lessons, I can cut myself a little bit of slack and I don't have to be quite so fearful. I can understand that, you know what, this is something I'm working through. I asked to bring this forward, right? I chose to bring this forward, these life lessons, the sub lessons, all of it. I chose to bring it forward in my soul's contract. So understanding that you've chosen to bring all this stuff forward might help you to feel a little bit more in control of your life and maybe a little less fearful of where it's going. So you have to ask yourself, are you working towards overcoming the challenges, or are you being your authentic self, or are you trying to be someone that you're not? I see this time and time again where people are trying to fill the shoes of somebody else when they're not even wearing their own shoes. No wonder the shoes don't fit, right? You guys are putting on masks and the masks don't fit you. And it's hard for you to have authentic relationships when you're really not being authentic. And you know, one of the common complaints I hear is, this person just doesn't get me. Well, of course they don't get you. You haven't shown them who you really are, right? So because maybe you're fearful of exposing who you really are. Maybe you're afraid of rejection. Maybe you're fearful that people won't like you if you show them who you really are. But you know, it's just, I'm trying to think of an analogy here, but if you're not showing people who you really are, it's going to cause a problem in your relationships and how you interact with other people, because they intuitively know that you're not being truthful, that you're not being authentic. So if you fear being rejected, one of the things you really need to do is get in touch with who you really are. Cut yourself some slack. You brought forth some very specific lessons that are identified in your life path number. And in those lessons, we need to work through them so that we can feel comfortable with who we are. And guess what? The funny thing is, sometimes we're afraid to be vulnerable. Sometimes we're afraid to tell people the lessons that we're trying to learn. I mean, here I am on YouTube talking to thousands of you, millions of you, whoever, and I'm exposing a little piece of myself, but I'm trying to keep it real, right? I'm trying to keep it authentic. I don't want you to see me with a mask on. I want you to see who I really am, or my work is not worth anything, right? So I think it's really important for you to understand, what are your lessons? Are you working on them? Are you identifying them? Are you embracing them and saying, okay, I got to cut myself a little bit of slack because this is an area I have to learn, okay? All right, explore your expression number a little further to identify your strengths and your gifts. This is another thing we brought forward with us. Your birth name identifies your strengths and the gifts that you chose to bring forward with you to assist you on your life path. So when you were discussing your reincarnation with your spirit guides, when you're sitting down, you had a discussion with them that would have sounded something like this. Okay, so in my previous lifetime, I wasn't particularly patient. So I want to bring in some energy of the number 2 in the lesson capacity that I can learn more about patience and diplomacy. And I want to learn a little bit more about my freedom. Okay, so because I was kind of abusive with my freedom in a previous lifetime, I was kind of scattered in my energy and I was kind of all over the place, didn't accomplish a whole lot and wasted a whole lot of time. So I want to bring some 5 energy in. And I also want to be a bit more analytical, maybe a little bit more spiritual this time around. So I'm going to bring in the energy of the number 7. There we go. We got a life path number of 7, 25-7, 2 and 5/7. So I've agreed to come in and work on the lessons relating to the number 2, which is all about diplomacy and patience and such. The 5 is about my freedom, and the 7 is being that analyst, being the spiritual teacher. Okay, so you bring all that forward, and then beyond that, you say, okay, so all right, I figured out what it is I want to learn. So how am I going to help myself on this journey that I'm choosing for myself? I better choose a name that's going to really support this journey. So you don't choose your birth name, but you do choose the vibration of your birth name. So you might say, okay, so the 7 is a bit introverted and a little quiet. They're a spiritual teacher, but they need, if I'm going to come in with a 7, I think I need a little bit of strength. I need a little bit of oomph, to get me forward, to get my word out there so I can be a really good teacher. So maybe I should choose the 5. as my strength, not my weakness. The expression number, remember, comes from all the letters in your birth name. So all the numbers in your birth name create what's called your expression number, which provides you information on what your strengths are. So in this illustration I'm giving you, a 5 would say, this is a person that likes the limelight, doesn't mind being out in front of people, doesn't mind talking to groups, likes to kind of put it out there. So you can see where that would be a strength that would really help to support the person with a 7 life path that's a little weaker in that area, right? So we can find some really good clues from looking at our birth name that can help us to recognize what our strengths are. So if you're afraid, for example, of being under the limelight and such, because your life path number says, I'm not really good at that, but you look at your expression number and go, right, there's a 5. Yeah, that says that maybe I could be good at that, right? Maybe I don't have to be quite so afraid of it because I kind of brought in that talent. So let's give it a shot, right? Maybe that'll help to dispel some of those fears. So for example, another example here would be somebody who has a life path number of an 8. Okay, this is the manifestor. This is somebody who's really good in business, right? This is somebody who's got a very powerful energy. A big energy, somebody who really enjoys being in business and creating things and creating good foundations. Maybe they would bring in an expression number of a 2. So the 2 says, I'm really good one-on-one. Okay, what can I do with that? Well, I like business, so maybe I could be a financial consultant working one-on-one with people because apparently I'm really good working one-on-one. Maybe I don't have to be quite so afraid that I wouldn't be successful in this because it says clearly right here in my soul's contract that my 2 energy is going to support me, right? So are you using your gifts? Do you know what your gifts are? Do you know what your expression number is? It's really important that you get that. How could you be using these gifts to help dispel your fears? Again, look at your lessons that you're learning. You can also look at your heart's desire number, which comes from the vowels of your birth name. And the vowels on your birth name create the number which identifies what you're passionate about. A lot of people, they don't understand necessarily what they're passionate about, and that creates fear all by themselves, right? Or all by itself. So understanding what you're passionate about helps you to go for it. It's interesting because, my heart's desire number is a 6. So I often looked at that and went, wow, 6, okay, that's the nurturer. That's the person that, likes to cook and likes to bring people into her home and entertain and nurture and all that. Yeah, I like that to a degree, but I wouldn't say I'm totally passionate about that, right? So I had to really think about that for a while, and I had to really dig a little deeper into it. There's lots of descriptions online that'll completely confuse you, right? So it's really important that you get a good explanation as to what all the components are in your birth code, because I, for one, was very confused about it. So I've discovered that the 6, being my passion, is something I didn't really develop until later in my life, well, until my 50s, when I figured out that this is my passion. Teaching you guys is my passion. Empowering people, putting positive energy into everything I do, uplifting people every day, inspiring them. That's what I'm passionate about, right? And that is definitely in alignment with the 6, as well as being Susie Homemaker, which I'm not, okay? But I compensate for it because I'm out here. So I just think it's really important that you understand the components in your birth date. Now remember that your life path number holds the biggest amount of clout. This is what you're going to feel the most, the lessons that are in your face all the time, okay? Second to that is your expression number, which is where your gifts and your talents lie. So this is something that you're going to feel a little bit lesser than the life path number. Third to that would be the heart's desire number. So that means that you'll feel that a little bit lesser again. And fourth to that would be your birthday number, okay, the day that you were actually born on. So all 4 of those numbers create the framework, if you will, of your numerology chart. And that's what I look at when I'm looking at your birth code. So it's not unusual when I ask somebody, what do you like to do? They're saying, well, I don't know what my purpose is. I'm really lacking. I'm really afraid because I don't know what my purpose is, and time is ticking on, and I really need to figure this out because I'm not getting any younger. So I would ask, well, okay, so what are you passionate about? Well, I don't really know. Why don't you know? You don't know because maybe you're the kind of person that's putting yourself out there for everybody else, right? Putting everybody else's needs ahead of yourself. And so you're not really in touch with what it is that makes you happy. The other thing could be that because the heart's desire number or the soul urge number is the 3rd down the ladder, right? You don't feel it quite as intensely. So 11s, for example, they have a tendency to have a really hard time identifying with their heart's desire number because they're so they're very involved with trying to make everybody else happy, right? They're the people pleasers. So they lose sight of what is important to them and what makes them happy. Okay. So I think it's really important that you understand what am I here to learn? What are the gifts that I brought forward? And what is it I'm really, really passionate about? Those are the three things we really need to take a look at. And that's it for today. I hope that you found that insightful. You're welcome to contact me if you have any questions at all. I'm at www.annperrynumerologist.com. I've got a really active Facebook page. I would love for you to check me out there on Facebook. I also have some courses that are available on Udemy. Some of them are free. Some of them are a small cost involved, but they're all doable. You can start them when you want. You can finish them when you like. It's a great opportunity to really get to know who you are. If you're struggling with your life purpose and you're trying to figure out who the heck am I, check out my course on Udemy. It's called Uncover Your Life Purpose with Numerology. I think you'll find it really helpful because I break it down unlike any other numerologist out there, where I really help you to understand what kind of life path number are you. And believe me when I tell you, when I figured out that I wasn't a 34-7, that I was actually a 16-7, my whole world opened up and started to make sense. So I'm hoping that that will help and help you as well. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. If there's anything I can do in terms of answering your questions, by all means, send me a note. Happy to do that. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye for now.